Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Srimad Bhagavatam overview class. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuro Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamhiyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsa He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नित्यनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधार श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to we are discussing from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So yesterday we discussed the beautiful allegorical story of Puranjan, and this will continue for further chapters. So we're discussing how when Prachina Barhi, he instructed his sons, the 10 Prachetas, to go to the forest and do tapasya. So on the way, the Prachetas, they met Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva, being such a great devotee of the Lord, he says, I have come to you because you are great devotees of the Lord. And then, so therefore, the Prachetas, they did not invite Lord Shiva, but Lord Shiva came on his own. Yah param brahmasa sakshat triguna jiva sangitat bhagwantam vasudevam prapanna sapriyosi me. So Rudra, Lord Shiva is saying, whoever is Bhagwantam Vasudeva Prapanna, whoever is surrendered to the Supreme Lord Vasudev, who is the controller of all the modes, Sa Priyosime, that person is very dear to me. So then Lord Shiva, he described beautiful way of worshipping the Supreme Lord by chanting a song that is called Rudra Gita, and in that he offered obeisances to the predominating deities of the four antahkaranas, then predominating deity of the five elements, and then he worshipped the form of the Lord. He described the beautiful form of the Lord. He described the relationship between the Lord and the Jiva, and what is the relationship of Paramatma and Prakriti. And after describing all that, he told Prachetas, you now sing this Rudra Gita, sing this mantra, and you will definitely get all the success. So Prachetas, they continued, they went inside the water and they did tapasya, they chanted this mantra for 10,000 years. So Narad Muni, on the other side, he thought, oh, the sons are doing such a great devotional service, and the father is completely engaged in sense gratification. Because Prachina Barhishat, he was such a great performer of karma kandi rituals. He was so very absorbed in those sacrifices. So Narad Muni, being a well-wisher of everyone, he went to Prachina Barhi and he started a beautiful story of allegorical story of Puranjana. So he described, yesterday we discussed how the story of Puranjana is basically the story of a jiva when he comes in this world, how he gets trapped in this body, and then he meets the intelligence, and then all the beautiful features of the intelligence and the 9 gates of this body we discussed yesterday. So now today, this 26th chapter we'll be discussing. In that it is described that sometimes the jiva gives up his proper intelligence, that Puranjani represents the dharmic intelligence of the living entity. Sometimes the jiva leaves the proper intelligence under the influence of the modes of passion and ignorance, and he becomes attached to the abominable activities. And then somehow he attains the discrimination later. So then this Narad Muni is describing that once upon a time, the king Puranjana, he went to the forest mounting his chariot. And then what is the chariot which he took? So this chariot is made up of so many different things, and in 3 verses he describes the allegory of the chariot. So he says the Puranjan is the soul, and the chariot is our body. So Puranjana, he took a bow and arrow. So the bow represents the absorption of the living entity as a doership. Doer mentality is very, very prominent. Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimuhudatma karta aham iti manyate. So living entity in this world, he thinks I am the doer. That is the cause of bondage. So the Puranjana was carrying a bow. That bow represents the doership mentality. And then he was wearing a golden armor, which represents the Rajogun. And then in his quiver, he has unlimited arrows. That represents the unlimited desires of the living entity to enjoy in this world. And then apart from that, he had 2 very explosive arrows. That represents ahamta and mamta, ego and possessiveness, aham and mama, me and mine. So the whole world is based on these 2 principles, me and mine. So a living entity wants to enjoy this world based on these 2 principles. This is my body, and these are things related to this body, me and mine. And then apart from that, he had 5 more arrows, which represents the Gyanendriyas. And then he had 5 horses, which were moving very quickly. They are represented by the 5 Karmendriyas. So Karmendriyas, these are also 5 Gyanendriyas, which are easily attracted by the senses. So the 5 arrows are the activities of the Gyanendriyas, and the 5 horses, they are the Gyanendriyas. And then apart from that, there are 2 wheels of this chariot. These are sinful activities and pious activities. And this whole chariot is having an axle that is called Pradhan. And then flags, there is a flag on top of this chariot which represents the 3 modes of material nature. And to support these, there were 5 life airs, 5 supports, which represents the 5 life airs, Pran, Apan, Udana, Saman, and Vyan. And the reins represent the mind. The driver represents the intelligence of a living entity. That is still the material intelligence. And then sitting place is the heart. And then apart from that, there were 2 poles to which the harness is fixed. That represents the lamentation and illusion. And there were 7 coverings on this chariot. So these are the 7 coverings of the body. So the body is covered with 5 elements: the skin, muscle, fat, blood, marrow, bone, and semen. And then there are 5 different motions of the chariot. They are the 5 activities of Karmendriyas. So the mouth, hands, legs, anus, and genitals. These are the 5 Karmendriyas, and the 5 activities of these Karmendriyas, they represent the 5 different motions. And then when the chariot was driving on the road, there were 5 obstacles that represent the 5 types of Prana Vayu. Prana, Apana, Udana, Saman, Vyan. Again, the same things are coming. And then it had 11 commanders, which represent the 10 senses and the mind. And the destination of this chariot is the sense objects. So the living entity takes this chariot of this body to go to sense objects so that he can enjoy. So that is the chariot which Puranjan took to go to hunt for the sense objects. So this is a picture which was made by one devotee. It represents all the things which we discussed just now. This is the chariot of the body which the Puranjana, living entity, took to go to the sense objects. And then taking this chariot, Puranjana, he goes to the forest. So Jiva, when he becomes absorbed in forming forbidden acts under the ignorance, that is what is represented by this Puranjana going to forest, leaving his dharmic intelligence and taking shelter of adharmic intelligence. So therefore, he took his bow and he went to the forest. He was very, very proud. So therefore, this pride is the very, very dangerous enemy of a living entity. So therefore, Prabhupada writes that hunting, he went to hunt. So what is this hunting? And Chakravarti Thakur also writes that this hunting means sin of going out to find another woman. So this Puranjan had a wife, but he left his wife and he went to the forest to hunt. That hunting is the hunting for other women. And the arrows are attachment and repulsion. So his bow is the absorption in enjoyment. The absorption is enjoyment. So living entity wants to enjoy. So therefore, yeah, I'll put this pic on the WhatsApp. So his wife is the intelligence possessing the qualities of dharma. So wife, that is Puranjani, represents the dharmic intelligence. So this Puranjan left his dharmic intelligence and he went to the forest to hunt for other sense objects. So therefore, if somebody enjoys sense gratification in a dharmic way, that is prescribed in the scriptures. But Puranjan, he abandoned his association of his religious married wife, and then he went to hunt for other women, that is represented by sense gratification. So therefore, Prabhupada writes that when the conditioned soul is greatly overpowered by the desire for sense gratification, he does not care for this is religious, this is irreligious. He's just absorbed in sense gratification. One time, one of the Prabhupada disciples and his brother, both were together and practicing Krishna consciousness. So one brother, after few years of practicing, he thought, I have done enough of all these things. Now I want to enjoy, So he left Krishna consciousness and he went and he started enjoying all the previous ways. So the brother who was still devotee, he became worried. He started thinking how to bring him back to the process. So that time, Prabhupada had just written this 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And 5th canto, we'll be discussing in a few days. The end of the 5th canto describes all the 28 hellish planets which are there. So this brother devotee, he thought, I should give this 5th canto to my brother. So he gave that 5th canto and told him to read the last few chapters, the description of the hellish planets. So this brother who had left practice of Krishna consciousness, he read that. And next day he packed up everything and came back to temple again. He became so, fearful just by reading what will happen to me if I engage in all these sinful ways. So therefore, when a living entity wants to enjoy in this world, he does not consider what is good, what is bad. That is what is happening with Puranjana. So when Bhog Ichha becomes so very powerful, then one cannot understand. So then, this Puranjana, because he was influenced by demoniac propensities, his heart became very hard and merciless, and he was killing animals without any consideration. So therefore, this represents that a man, when he's too proud of his material qualifications, material positions, he tries to enjoy senses in an unrestricted way. He does not feel, oh, this is good, this is bad. Ishwaroham aham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. That is the 16th chapter, the description of the divine and demoniac. So what is the mentality of a demoniac person? That adhyo abhijanavan asmi ko anyo asti sadrisho maya yakshe dasyami modishya ityajnana vipohita. He thinks, I am the controller, I am the enjoyer, I am so very powerful, I can do anything. I had so many enemies, I had killed them, there are few remaining, I'll kill them also. So that is the sinful mentality. That is the mentality of a person who has a very, very powerful, resources with him. So therefore, this Puranjana, because he was so very powerful and he was overpowered by these demoniac tendencies, he started killing animals unrestrictedly. So now, if this somebody may ask that if the king was allowed to hunt according to scriptures, then why the living entity should be restricted from sense gratification? So it is described that actually there is a regulation on animal killing too. It is not that the kings could kill the animals in an unrestricted way. If a king is too much attached to eating flesh, he may do so, but it is restricted. What are the restrictions? There are 6 rules which the king has to follow. First is, if he is attached to eating meat, then only he has to hunt for the animal. Secondly, it should be only for the Shraddha ceremonies, Tirtheshu, and on special occasions. It should not become a daily affair, And then thirdly, it should not be a daily Shraddha rite. Fourthly, only a king can do this, not anyone. If somebody says, Baba, king is doing, I'll also do. No. King has a special responsibility. There is some concession given to that king. And fifthly, only animals which are suitable for sacrifice should be killed, not any other animal. And last, they should be done only in the forest and only when required. So similarly, just like the king, they are not allowed to kill animals in an unrestricted way. The jiva is allowed sense enjoyment in only restricted way, as much as necessary, not to the fullest extent. Whenever my mind says, okay, I'll enjoy sense gratification. No. So that is why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamo asmi bhartarshapha. I am sex life which is not against the regulative principles of religion. So this is how we have to understand that when a living entity wants to enjoy, okay, they can enjoy if they have that desire to enjoy, but it should be restricted. It should not be unrestricted and free. Otherwise, we'll become very much degraded in material consciousness. So therefore, after this, he says that those who follow the scriptures, what is their destination? And those who do not follow, what is their destination? So he says, Ya evam karma niyatam vidwan kurvi tamanavah karmana tena rajendra jnanena nasalipyate. So he says that, so he's saying to the king, Narad Muni is telling to Prachina Barhi, O Rajan, any person who works according to the directions of the Vedic scriptures, vidwan kurvi tamanavah, one who does all these fruitive activities based on the Vedic principles, Vedic scriptures, karmana tena rajendra jnanena na salipyate. He does not become involved in fruitive activities. Just like Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, yagyarthat karmano anyatra lokoyam karma bandhana. Tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanghah samachara. Whoever offers in sacrifice things to me, then he will not get entangled in the reaction of the work. Brahmanyadaya karmani sangam tyaktva karotiyah lipyatena sapapena padmapatram ivambhasa. Just like water, just like the lotus leaf is not touched by the water, although it is on the water. Similarly, devotees of the Lord, although they may be engaged in fruitive activities, material things of this world, but because their aim is, we want to serve Krishna, we want to please Krishna. So this is the only thing which differentiates a materialist from a devotee. Only thing is the difference of consciousness. Otherwise, everything is same. What a devotee does, a materialist person is also doing the same thing. A materialistic person may be maintaining his family, going to job, office, and taking care of the bank balance, property, relatives, wealth. And the devotees may also be doing the same thing. What is the difference? The difference is in consciousness. Why I am doing this? That is the difference between materialist and a devotee. A devotee, he takes all efforts to make sure that he becomes conscious of Krishna. अनासक्तस्य विषयान् यथार्हम् उपयुञ्जतः निर्बन्ध कृष्ण संबंधे युक्तम वैराग्यमुच्यते. So anything which is utilized in service of Lord, that is renunciation. That is called yukta vairagya. So many times devotees, they feel, Prabhuji, I am so very absorbed in sense gratification. I have to maintain my family. I have to go to job. I cannot practice full-time devotional service like you. No, that is a devotional service. So for different ashramas, there are different services. For a grihastha, a householder, maintaining family, taking care of the job, taking care of the relatives, bank balance, that is their sadhana. That is the part of their daily routine activities. They have to do it. But the consciousness is what that makes difference. Why I am doing it. Otherwise, if devotees on the name of becoming a detached people become irresponsible, then they will set a bad example for all the other people around the world, and they will destroy their whole personal life also. Because this artificial renunciation does not last for long. Just like if somebody tries to imitate Srivas Thakur, one time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked Srivas, I am seeing that the whole day you are with me, chanting, dancing, and the whole night also you are with me. Arey Baba, you have a family, you have wife, you have children, you have servants. How are you maintaining them? So Srivas Thakur clapped 3 times, So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not understand what is this. So Srivas Thakur said, Prabhu, I have this faith. If by clapping 3 times, whatever is required for me to live in this family is not provided by Lord, I will tie a stone in my neck and jump in Ganga. And Lord was providing him everything. Do we have that type of faith? If no, then do the duties properly. So we don't have to behave in a pure devotee way and detached way without fulfilling the responsibilities of our family life. Because that is how one will be free from all the results of the action. That is called Nishkam Karma Yoga. And then he says those who are not followers of the scriptural injunctions, what happens to them? Anyatha karma kurvano mana rudho nibadhyate gunapraha patito nashta pragya prajatyadha. He says anyatha karma kurvano. Anyatha means one who does not follow the scriptures, one who acts whimsically in a very, very unrestricted way. Then man arudha nibadhyate. Arudha means he is on a chariot which is driven by pride and attachment. Gunapravaha patito. He falls down because of the influence of the modes of nature. Nashta pragya vrajati adhaha. Pragya means intelligence. His intelligence is destroyed and he sinks down in this material existence more and more. Prabhupada quotes a verse from Bhagavad Gita, ya shastra vidam ussrijya vartate kamakarata nasasiddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. Whoever does not follow the scriptural rules and regulations, vartate kamakarata, and he acts according to his whimsical ways of satisfying their senses. Nasasiddhim avapnoti, they cannot achieve success in this life. Na sukham na param gatim, they can never be happy and they will not get a higher destination. Krishna Bulya Jeev Anadi Bahirmukh Ateeva Maya Tare De Samsara Dukh. Maya Mugda Jeeve Nahi Swatah Krishna Gyan Jeevera Kripaya Koila Krishna Veda Puran. So Krishna, a Jeev, living entity, has turned his face away from Krishna since time immemorial. Therefore, Maya Devi is giving all types of Adibhautika, adhidaivika and adhyatmika miseries. And to show mercy for all the living entities of the Kali Yuga, Vyasadeva, who is Krishna's literary incarnation, he gave all this Veda and Puran. So therefore, Prabhupada writes this word Nashta Pragya is very, very important. Nashta Pragya means one who has no perfect knowledge. All the scriptures, they are talking about different ways of sense gratification. Basically the Vedas, they deal with dharma, artha, kama, and ultimately moksha. So therefore Krishna is telling to Arjuna, don't be so much bewildered by all these things which are described in the Vedas. Give up all these mentality of following the Vedas. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna. Unless you become focused on serving me, then you will not get higher understanding. Matirna Krishna Parata Swato Mitho Vipadyeta Grahavratanam Adanta Gobhi Visitam Tamishram Punah Punasharvita Charvananam. People who are absorbed in sense gratification, they cannot come out of this family life by their own efforts, by others' efforts, and by their combined efforts of both of them. Only by mercy of the devotees of the Lord they can do so. Otherwise, what they are doing? Punah punah charvita charvananam. They are chewing what is already chewed. To understand this, the people who eat chewing gum, it is as if somebody has eaten chewing gum and all the juice is out, then he throws that chewing gum and then somebody else picks it up and starts eating. It may be a very gross example, but that is what living entities are doing in this world. They have enjoyed sense gratification in unlimited ways, and they have tried to get the juice out of their body and the senses in so many different ways, but still they are not satisfied. But somehow or other, by the mercy of the Lord, mercy of the devotees of the Lord, if we have come to this process of Krishna consciousness, so now only thing we have to do is we don't have to give up this process. This is the most merciful process, most fortunate thing which we have got in our life. Only thing we have to do it, we don't have to become unfortunate. Maya Devi will always convince us, ye tere liye nahi hai. You will not be able to do it. Nobody has done it in the past. Arey aap apne aap ko kya samajhta hai? You are such a great devotee or what? Just leave this process, not for you. This is how Maya Devi will broadcast, propaganda. You will not be able to do it. This is not for you. Kya samajhte hai apne aap ko pure devotee banega? So it is not for you. Arey baba ye tere bas ka baat nahi hai. That is all propaganda of Maya. What we have to do? Just keep on practicing. Have faith in the mercy of the Lord. Have faith in the mercy of Parampara. Have faith in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Have faith in Prabhupada. Just like one devotee of Prabhupada, even if he was on the deathbed, unconscious, suddenly he got up and said, Prabhupada has not cheated us. And then he again lied down, left his body. That is the faith we should have. Prabhupada has not cheated us. Prabhupada would say many times, I have not come here to cheat anyone. So that is the faith we should have, So that is what is described by Prabhupada in the purport. So then, when Puranjana, he was killing animals in a very unrestricted way. So all the merciful people, they were very aggrieved. They could not tolerate the Puranjan's killing of so many animals. And then it's described that Puranjana, he kills so many animals like rabbits, boar, buffaloes, wild cows and antelopes and all that. And then after that, he became tired. So this is very interesting. Why he became tired? So the king, Puranjana, became tired after killing so many animals. When a man comes in contact with a saintly personality, he becomes aware of the stringent laws of nature and thus becomes a religious person again. So that is how one becomes tired of all the worldly things. People try to enjoy sense gratification so many different ways, and then when they get frustrated, they start asking questions. Who am I? Why do bad things happen to good people? All the journey of self-discovery questions, they start coming up in the mind of these people. So this Puranjana, he also gets his intelligence back, and he returns home, and he tries to uh, appease his aggrieved wife. So this shows how Jiva, he regains his dharmic intelligence. So the king, he became, because he was very hungry and thirsty because he was killing. So then he was, so the spiritual significance is he was troubled when he remembered his sinful acts. My God, I have done so many sinful things in my life. And then therefore after returning home, he took bath. So returning home means he gave up his sinful activities and established himself in dharma again. And then he took bath means he called for the brahmanas and he had them perform atonements. So the atonement means prayashchitta. It will become again in the 6th canto, where Parikshit Maharaj, he would ask questions that, Arey, all the living entities, they are suffering in hellish planet. What is the way out? Parikshit Maharaj tells, Shukdev Goswami tells that there is a way that is called prayashchitta. Parikshit Maharaj rejects that. Prayashchitta is of no use because again people engage in sense gratification. Kvachin nivartate bhadrat kvachin charati tatpunah prayashchittam ato apartham manne kunjar shauchavat. It is like an elephant bathing. Elephant takes his bath very nicely and comes on the shore and again puts dirt all over his body. What is the use of such type of bathing? So this is how materialist jiva, living entity, although he atones for his sinful activities, but the desire for enjoyment does not go. That goes only by practice of bhakti. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agham dhunvartika niharam evam bhaskaraha. Only by Vasudeva bhakti, only by devotional service one can become completely cleansed. So then, and he ate suitable food. That means he gave up eating all the abominable things like meat and liquor, and then he became refreshed. That means he became steady in the spiritual intelligence. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogatah bhagavad tattva jnanam mukta sangasya jayate. So when somebody comes to the process of Krishna consciousness, naturally he becomes happy and blissful. Somebody asked Prabhupada, Swamiji, what do you do for recreation? Prabhupada said, our whole life is recreation. Are who in the morning 4:30 gets up and starts dancing? Our whole life is recreation. We start dancing at 4:30 in the morning, and then we have beautiful darshan of the deities, and then we are chant together, and then we dance in Guru Puja, take wonderful prasad. Our whole life is recreation. So that is called prasanna manaso. So then after that, the king, Puranjan, he decorated himself with beautiful ornaments, sandalwood pulp, and garlands. That represents that, this Puranjana, he decorated himself with principles of religion again. And then after that, he remembered his dharmic intelligence. He remembered his queen. So queen is dharmic intelligence. So what it means is, Prabhupada writes, when a man comes in Krishna consciousness, when a man comes in good consciousness, he accepts a saintly person as spiritual master. So that is the beginning of the dharmic life. To accept a saintly person in the life, accepts his instructions. So that is the power of association of devotees. Somebody came to Prabhupada and says, Swamiji, you can enlighten me. You can deliver me from this material world. Prabhupada said, no, I cannot deliver you. I cannot enlighten you. I can tell you the way how you can become enlightened yourself. But you have to do the hard work. Don't expect miracles. So what scriptures, what sadhus, great saintly persons they tell? They tell the ways and the means to perfect life. What we have to do? We have to follow them. Prabhupada gives an example that it is as if, if somebody says, no, you can enlighten me. It is as if somebody is fallen in the well and a rope is thrown and the person who is in the well, he thinks, let my finger curl around the rope and then somebody can pull me up. No, It will not happen automatically. We have to do the hard work. Otherwise, there is no other way. So therefore, after that, this Puranjana, he felt very satisfied, joyful, and proud. That means he had already left all his sinful impressions, and then after that, he became enamored by Cupid. That means he became eager to find his previous intelligence, which was fixed in dharma. But he did not see his beautiful wife. That means that although one desires one previous intelligence to come back, but it does not appear immediately because the impressions are so very strong. It happens, a neophyte devotee in Krishna consciousness, he wants to advance in bhakti, but he falls down again and again. There are 4 stages. One is helpless defeat. When somebody comes in Krishna consciousness, without even fighting, when sense gratification comes, surrender, immediate surrender, not even trying to resist that temptation. After some time, he advances and he comes to the second level. First is a helpless defeat. Second is struggle and defeat. He'll be defeated, but still after struggling, he'll resist a little bit, but then he'll surrender. Okay, I'll enjoy. Thirdly, after becoming purified a little bit, third stage comes, that is struggle and success. That time he'll become successful in his struggle. And then last is effortless success. There is no struggle only, that is a pure devotee. So that is the difference between a sadhaka and a pure devotee. Sadhaka has to resist, struggle, and then he becomes successful. Pure devotee is not even attracted, just like Haridas Thakur. This prostitute was coming every day and showing all her feminine beauty and all her bodily parts. No effect on Haridas Thakur. He was pure. On the contrary, the prostitute became a greatest of the devotee. So therefore, in the beginning stages, a sadhaka may fall down. Prabhupada says, neophyte, when a neophyte in the Krishna consciousness eats too much, he falls down. And instead of becoming elevated in Krishna consciousness, he becomes attracted by Cupid. But very wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness is even if the devotee falls down, the path of bhakti is so very powerful that Krishna does not leave him. That is the mercy of Krishna. Tyaktva swadharmam charanambujam harer bhajanna pakvo athapate tato yadi yatra kova bhadram abhudamushyakim kovarth aptam abhajatam swadharmatah. Even if somebody falls from the path of bhakti, what is the loss? On the contrary, if somebody is practicing his varnashram very nicely and he does not practice his bhakti, what is the gain? So at that time, when he saw that his wife is not visible, he became a little anxious and he inquired from the household women, have you seen my dear beautiful wife somewhere? So it is described, it represents that when a man becomes refreshed by the association of devotees, then he is awakened to his Krishna consciousness. And then he consults his mind and decides, okay, I should return back to my, spiritual activities. So that is what is described here. So Puranjan, he is asking the household women, have you seen my wife? So that is how this is, all the previous intelligence, dharmic intelligence suddenly has appeared. In the mind of a sadhaka, always there is a fight, Vishaya Bhog and serving Krishna. There is always fight. Mind will sometimes say, no, all this is useless. Arey maja karo yaar life mein. There is nothing else to be done. Baad mein bhakti kar lena. Sometimes mind will say, okay, I should do bhakti now. There is always a fight. Good dog and the bad dog. If we are feeding the good dog more, that dog will become powerful. So that is how we have to develop the higher taste. And then he says that I do not know, Puranjan is saying to all these women, I do not know, I am not getting attracted to my paraphernalia, household paraphernalia anymore. I think that if there is neither a mother or a wife in the house, this house, that house is like chariot without wheels. And where is that fool who will sit on this chariot? So therefore, Prabhupada quotes amazing, interesting verse from Chanakya Pandit. He says, if there is no mother in the house, and if the wife is not pleasing, then there is no use of staying at home. It is as good as forest. Mata yasya grihe nasti bharyaya cha priyavadini aranyam tena gantavyam yatha aranyam tatha griham. So it says Mata yasya grihe nasti. If a person has neither a mother at home, bharya cha apriyavadini, if the wife does not speak pleasing words, then aranyam tena gantavyam, he should leave home and go to forest. You know, because for him there is no difference between the forest and the home. So then what is this real mata? Real mata is, Prabhupada writes, devotional service to the Lord. And what is a real patni? Real patni. So in these verses, Prabhupada gives a very wonderful definition of a wonderful relationship between a housewife and the husband. So who is he glorifies the devoted wife in wonderful ways. Prabhupada glorifies in so many verses which will be coming. So he says a devoted wife is a wife who helps her husband to execute the religious principles in devotional service. So these two things are very much required: Krishna consciousness environment and a devoted wife. And then Prabhupada writes that historically it is proved that the background of every great man, there is either a mother or a wife. One time, there was a Prerna festival in our temple. So this Maharaj, Radhanath Swami Maharaj, was giving class. So after the class, one boy raised his hand and asked, Maharaj, he was a new boy, he just started coming. He said, Maharaj, I have heard that behind every great successful man, there is a woman. Who is woman in your life? Who is there in your life? How you became successful? Everybody started laughing. Kya question puch raha hai? But amazingly, to the surprise of everyone, Radhanath Swami Maharaj, on his left side is the altar. He was sitting on the Vyasasam. So he turned towards Radharani and he said, she is standing there. That is the women in my life that because of whom I have become successful. And everybody started clapping. So therefore, this is another very wonderful thing. So behind every great man, there is either a mother or a wife. Just like in the life of Shivaji Maharaj, his mother played a very crucial role in giving him all the good education, knowledge, dharmic intelligence. And then after that, Puranjan is telling, where is my wife? Who will save me by giving me good intelligence? My wife gives good intelligence at every step. So therefore, please tell me, where is my wife? I am drowning in this ocean of danger. Please give me good intelligence. Please give me the direction where I can find my wife. Prabhupada writes, there is no difference between a good wife and a good intelligence. A good wife is same as a good intelligence. And therefore, one who does not possess a good intelligence can deliberate properly. One who possesses good intelligence can deliberate properly and save himself from the dangerous condition of life. This whole material existence is like an ocean. Every step there is a danger. But if somebody takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, then we can easily cross this ocean of material existence. And therefore it is described, Krishna jai bhaje sai bada chatur. Whoever worships Krishna is a very, very intelligent person. Yajantihi sumedhasaha. Those who are intelligent people, they worship the Supreme Lord Krishna. So Prabhupada writes, if one get a chaste wife, she can be of great help when one is threatened by many dangerous situations of life. So therefore, this good wife is very much glorified in the scriptures. She is the one who saves the husband, gives all the good counsel, all the good intelligence. So then, hearing all this, all the women, they address the king, this Puranjan. They say, "O master of the citizens, we do not know why your dear wife has taken this sort of existence. She is lying on the ground without bedding. We don't know why she's acting in this way." So, what is the meaning of this? This shows that the intelligence is always within the heart, and just like a chaste wife should always have one husband should always have chaste wife close to his heart. That is the very, very important part of our grihastha life. There should be a very good relationship between a husband and a wife, and therefore wife is called as ardhangini. And therefore, this woman, they are saying, "I don't know why we don't know why your wife is behaving in this way, why she's lying on the ground." And then they say that, so when Puranjan heard this, he went and he actually found that his wife was lying on the ground like a mendicant. Seeing this situation, he became very, very bewildered, and he thought, "I have committed a great offense, and now the living entity, he wants to have the association of the good intelligence again, dharmic intelligence again." So Prabhupada writes that this Puranjana, he repented. He repented why he left his good wife. Similarly, a living entity, when he engages in sinful activities, he should repent for that. Repentance is a very, very important part of a devotional process. As a sadhakas, we may do some offenses. So he regretted. Puranjana regretted. We, because of our conditionings, we commit so many mistakes. We should regret. Sometimes devotees feel, "I am suffering here so much. Is Krishna aware? Is Krishna aware of my problems? He is enjoying his life in the spiritual world. I am dying here. I am struggling. अरे 16 माला में इतना प्रॉब्लम है, फिर बोलते हैं भागवत में पढ़ो, फिर एसोसिएशन ऑफ डिवोटीज क्या क्या करेगा." Krishna is aware of that. जात श्रद्धो मत कथासु निर्विन्न सर्व कर्मसु वेद दुःखात्मकान् कामान् परित्यागोऽप्यनीश्वरः ततो भजेत मां प्रीत श्रद्धालो दृढ़ निश्चयः दुष्मानश्च तान् कामान् दुःखोदर्कांश गर्हयन्. Krishna is telling to Uddhava, "O Uddhava, my devotee, his faith is risen in my pastimes." Jata Shraddha, Shraddha का जन्म हो गया किसमें? मत कथासु, मेरी कथाओं में. निर्विन्न सर्व कर्मसु, he has given up all sense gratification. But why he has given up? Because he knows sense gratification leads to misery. Ved means to know. Dukkhatmakan kaman. If I engage in sense gratification, 100% miseries will come. But parityago api anishwara, but still he is not able to give it up. Then what does he do? Tato bhajayat mam prita shraddhalo dृढ़ निश्चय. Still he keeps on worshipping me with faith and determination. Jushamanasya tan kaman dukkhodarkansha garhyan. All the while he does a very important thing. He keeps on repenting for his sinful activities. He does not justify, अरे क्या करें, मेरा ऐसा कर्मा ही है, बचपन से ऐसा ही हूं मैं. No, he repents. Just like Puranjan is regretting, the living entity, the devotee, he repents for his acts, sinful acts in Krishna consciousness, which he performs. And therefore, Puranjana, he went to this queen and started glorifying the queen and flattering her, trying to appease her. So first he touched her 2 feet and then embraced her, put her on his lap, and he started speaking. So what does this mean? So a living entity, when he goes away from bhakti, comes back, he prays to the Lord, "I will no longer go from this Krishna consciousness. Please keep me at your lotus feet." And then what are the 2 feet represent? These 2 feet represent giving up ahankar and respecting the devotees. So devotees, a sadhaka should give up his ahankar and he should respect the devotees of the Lord. So that is a promise we have to make to the Lord. Oh my Lord, I have suffered so much in my so many lifetimes. Somehow or other, I have come to this process. Please keep me at your lotus feet. I do not want to go away again. One devotee, he was fed up with his temple services. He thought enough is enough. He left the temple and he was a surfer. He would go and surf on the ocean's waves. So then he took his surfboard and he was surfing. And as he was in the middle of the ocean, he found there is a shark which was coming from the front. And he started thinking, whole life I have done surfing, never I have encountered a shark. So this devotee, devotee, he had this training, kaun sa button dabana hai danger situation mein, started chanting, singing this Narsimha Arti ho gaya, then Mangal Arti bhi pura ga liya, Tulsi Arti, Shikshashtakam, all khatam ho gaya, abhi still the shark is coming. He prayed to Lord, oh my Lord, please, save me from this danger. Ek baar isse bacha lijiye. I will never give up your service again. And as he prayed, the shark was coming. And somehow shark decided to do Ekadashi fasting, circumambulated around this devotee and went away. This devotee came out running and went to the temple again. And the other devotees said, "Arey, kya ho gaya? Dikha nahi ek do din se." He said, "Nahi, thoda se ghumne gaya tha." So that is how a devotee has to pray to the Lord. Bas ab nahi. Once I come back, I'll not give up your lotus feet. Please allow me to be here. Please allow me to engage in service. So that's how we have to understand. And then after this Puranjani starts pacifying the Puranjani. He says, my dear beautiful wife, when a master accepts a servant as his own, he does not punish the servant. Servant may commit some garbad, but master does not punish that servant. So similarly, Prabhupada writes that animals and children, they are sometimes punished out of vengeance, but out of love. It's punished not out of vengeance, but out of love. Parents may punish the children, and then animals may be beaten sometimes, but a loving master does it just to correct the action. So therefore Puranjan is saying, loving master does not punish the servant more than required. Similarly, a person is punished by the laws of nature, but Krishna is not happy when he punishes the living entity. It is described in third canto. We discussed that when Krishna, he saw the broken thigh of Duryodhana, he was not happy. Bhagnoru urvyam nanananda pashyan. He was not happy. Sakarna dushashana saubalanam kumantra pakena hatashtriyayushah. Kumantra pakena hatashtriyayushah bhagnoru urvyam nanananda pashyan. When Krishna saw Duryodhana lying on the field with his thigh broken along with his associates, he was not happy. So Krishna is not happy when he sees the suffering of the living entities, but he gives them suffering just to correct their sinful mentality. So therefore, Puranjani is saying, please give up your anger, and please be merciful on me. And he says, one who becomes angry must be very foolish not to know that such is the duty of his friend. So therefore, please give up your anger. And then he says, kindly tell me if somebody has offended you. I am prepared to give. Now he's saying very wonderful thing. He says, please tell me who has offended you. Why are you behaving in this way? Please tell me. I am ready to punish him. If he is not a Brahmana and he is not a devotee, apart from these two people, I am ready to punish them, whoever they may be. So Puranjana is also a very great devotee of the Lord. So Narad Muni, why he speaks this? Because he wants to tell Prachina Barhi that, Prithu Maharaj, he also said the same thing. I will punish anybody who is not following my order. apart from Brahmanas and apart from Vaishnavas. So he's reminding that you are the descendant of Prithu Maharaj. Why are you behaving in this way? So Narad Muni is speaking all this allegorical story, and then he says, until this day I have not seen your face without tilak and decorations and all the beauty, but now seeing you in this condition, I am becoming so very aggrieved. So please, O my queen, due to my sinful desires, I went to the forest to hunt without asking you. Now I have come back. I will not leave you. Please be pleased with me. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, just as a woman does not give up her lover who has done wrong, so the intelligent should not give me up. That is what Puranjan is saying, living entity thinks. So therefore, after this chapter ends here, and now the queen Puranjani becomes very happy, and then what happens after that is described in the 27th chapter. This chapter is entitled as the attack of Chandaveg on the city of King Puranjana and the character of Kalakanya. So this chapter describes how this Puranjana, so the story is very interesting, how Narad Muni is weaving this whole beautiful allegorical story just to tell this Prachina Bari that, Are Baba, you are Puranjana. He's not telling straightforward that you are doing all these karma kandi activities guilt up. He is telling a whole story, very wonderful story. So now he says that in this chapter it will describe that Puranjana, he became endowed with proper intelligence and he performed pious acts, but he became afflicted with old age and disease, which is described through another story which he writes. So I'll just take half a minute. I'll just be back. Hare Krishna, extremely sorry for that. So now this chapter describes that Puranjana, after he appeased his wife, so he enjoyed with his wife for a long time. So it shows that when a living entity gives up his inclination for sinful life and engages in dharmic way of enjoyment. So that is how Puranjana gave his sinful activity, and then he engaged in enjoyment with his dharmic wife Puranjani. So then the king, he welcomed his queen, and he dressed him, he bathed nicely and dressed very nicely, and it represents that seeing the happiness of dharmic intelligence and being freed from the contaminations in his mind, a living entity feels very successful. So Prabhupada writes, generally a person, when he's too anxious about family affairs, he cannot discharge his family duties properly. Therefore, a wife is supposed to be an inspiration and should keep the husband's intelligence in good order so that they can combinedly prosecute the affairs of family life without impediment. So this Puranjani represents the dharmic intelligence. So the wife is supposed to help the husband to give him right inspiration, right intelligence, so that they can maintain the family affairs very properly. And then what happened? This Puranjana, he became too much captivated by his wife, and he was attracted by by the wife's sweet words in the private, and all the private talks. It shows that when a living entity becomes so very absorbed in Dharmic intelligence. He does not focus on the spiritual intelligence. Deha patya kalatradishu atma sainyashu asatsu api tesham pramatto nidhanam pashyan api na pashyati. So in this way, because this Puranjan, he was enjoying with his wife, he did not realize time is passing by. Similarly, a living entity, he's so very absorbed in enjoying in dharmic way. So in this whole story, the whole discussion is within the purview of the dharmic uh, function, dharmic life, dharmic lifestyle, varnashrama. There is no sinful life involved in this. So the sinful life was described in the last chapter. And after he gave up his sinful mentality, he's enjoying with his wife in the dharmic way. But still, even if somebody enjoys with his wife in dharmic way, that is not the end of the human form. Human form is meant for self-realization. Deha, apatya, kalatra, adishu, body, wife, family, children, and all the things. Living entity thinks they are my soldiers. When I'm in danger, these things will protect me. My wife will take care of me. My money is there. I have so much of great bank balance. I will take care of myself. But he doesn't realize they are fallible soldiers. They are not infallible. Atma Sainyasu Asatsu Api. Asat means they are fallible soldiers. Tesham Pramatta. Living entity becomes completely mad in the association of these things. He thinks, oh, ye sab meri raksha karenge. Pashyan api na pashyati. He does not see that death is coming. So Prabhupada writes, a beautiful wife is certainly enlivening to her husband. At the same time is a cause of degradation. Why? Because Chanakya Pandit also says that Rupavati Bharya, if the wife is so very beautiful, then person becomes so very absorbed in sense gratification. If somebody becomes too much absorbed with family and wife, he cannot take to Krishna consciousness very seriously. So therefore, this Puranjana, he always remained it is described that he always remained in the arms of his wife, which were like pillows. And then he could not understand what is self-realization. Human form is meant for self-realization. So wife represents dharma, but dharma should not be performed for artha and kama. Nehayat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate na tirthpada sevaya jivan napi mritopisa. Your karma should lead to dharma. Dharma should lead to renunciation. Renunciation should lead to devotional service. Dharmasya hi apavargasya. Dharma should be performed for liberation, not for arthayopakalpate, not for accumulating money for sense gratification. So therefore, it is very, very important to engage in association of devotees. Prabhupada writes, in current civilization, both man and women, they are averse to the topics of self-realization. And if somebody is thinking of a woman always, then it will bring him down more and more in the materialistic tendency. In this way, this Puranjana, his whole youth passed by, just like half of his youth passed by in a moment. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that Edhana Jauvana Putra Parijana Iteke Ache Parati Tire Kamala Dala Jala Jivana Talamala Bhajahu Haripadani Tire. So this is a prayer by Govinda Das Thakur. He writes beautiful bhajan. He says, this dhana, jauvana, putra and parijana. What is the use of all this? They are like kamala dalajal, just like water on the leaf of lotus. Anytime the water on the leaf of lotus can fall down. So therefore, what we have to do is take shelter of Krishna, worship Krishna. So therefore, it is described that in this way, now Puranjan, his half of the life passed by in enjoyment with his wife. Navam Vaya means the period of youth between 16 to 30. That's what Prabhupada writes. So this 13 or 15 years, between 16 to 30, These are the years where the senses are very, very strongly active. And therefore, Prabhupada writes, material enjoyments of the youth are especially pleasing to a person who has no spiritual training. But the purpose of spiritual life is, purpose of human form of life is to train ourselves so that we can remember Krishna always. Smartabhya satatam Vishnu vismartabhyo na jatuchit. Otherwise, by default, mind will get distracted to sense gratification. It will happen for sure. That is a process, that is a practice we have to make. And Prabhupada writes, this word says, Kama Kashmala Chetasah. Kama Kashmal means he was so very absorbed in sense gratification. He became completely contaminated with that thought of sense gratification. Prabhupada writes a current scenario he describes. He says, a lion is very powerful. He's a flesh eater, very strong, but he enjoys sex only once a year. Similarly, according to religious injunctions, a man is restricted only to enjoy sex life once in a month, after the menstrual periods of the wife is over. So therefore, if somebody is focusing his life only on sense gratification, that is a very, very sinful life. So this Puranjana, he enjoyed with his wife, and then he begot so many children. He begot 1100 sons and 110 daughters. And then in this way, half of the life is passed. Prabhupada writes, again he says, we do not find in the Vedic literature that they ever used contraceptive methods, although they were begetting hundreds of children. Checking population by contraceptive methods is a very, very sinful activity. So he says, Prabhupada writes, according to Vedic civilization, the contraceptive method should be the restraint in sex life. And Prabhupada talks about Garbhadhan Sanskar also. So Chakravarti Thakur writes, which are the daughters which are born from this intelligence, Puranjani? Daughters were shame, enthusiasm, and thoughtfulness. These were the daughters which are born. So then this Puranjana married his sons and daughters, two very qualified wives and husbands. So who are the wives with whom this Puranjana married his sons? They are consideration and determination. And who are the grooms? The grooms were humility and affection. Then from their marriage, each son produced hundreds and hundreds of sons. In this way, the whole city of this Panchal means the body of 5 senses, became overcrowded. So what is this hundreds and hundreds of sons? So this represents the actions and reactions of the jiva which he generates. Then after that he says, this Puranjan sons and grandsons, they were virtually actually plunderers. They plundered his home, treasury, everything. So Prabhupada has spoken this many times, and scriptures they describe many times that the relatives and the children and the wives, they are like the plunderers because they consume all the hard earned wealth of a person. So then Puranjana, now Narad Muni is telling to Prachina Bhari that this king Puranjana, he became implicated in so many desires just like you. Now after describing so many ways, now Narada is telling, just like you became absorbed in so many desires, Prachina Bhari also became implicated. So therefore now he is disclosing that, hey Baba, that is you are that Puranjan, So then after this, he says that, Narad Muni tells that because Puranjan was so very absorbed in this fruitive activities and his family, ultimately he became very old. He arrived to a point which is not liked by anyone, that is old age. Because a person when he's about to die, he is not welcomed by anyone. Nobody likes an old man, nobody likes a person who is about to die. So Prabhupada writes a very instructive story in this connection. He says, once there was a saintly person, and as he was passing by on the road, he met a prince. So he said, "Oh my dear prince, may you live forever." You know. And then after that, he met a saintly person. He said, "May you either live or die." Then he met a brahmachari. He said, may you die immediately." And then he met a hunter. He said, "Neither you live nor you die." What is the meaning of this? So the king, the prince, the sage said, "May you live forever." Why? Because till the time you are living, you are enjoying. After you die, you have to go to hell to suffer all your sinful activities. And then to the brahmachari, he said, either you live, to a saintly person, he said, either you live or you die. Why? When you are living, you are remembering God, you are remembering Krishna, and when you die, you'll go to the abode of Lord and you'll worship God there. So it is both same for you. And then he met a brahmachari. Brahmachari said, "You die immediately." Why? Because you are doing so much of tapasya, austerity. Better you die, because when you die, there are so many nice prospects waiting for you in the future. You will get so many good reactions. And then hunter, he said, either you live or die. It does not make a difference. Neither you live, neither you die, because your living is as good as hellish. You're killing animal, and after you die, you'll go to hell. So therefore, when a person becomes old, nobody likes him. And then as he becomes old, what happens? Now Narad Muni tells another story. So this city, Puranjan's city, was attacked by a person called Chandaveg. So who is this Chandaveg? So this Chandaveg is the time factor, because now Puranjana is already 50 years old. Half of the life is past in procreating all these children, getting them married. So this Chandaveg means, what is the meaning of Chandaveg? That is very swiftly passing away. So the time is very swift. As it is said, one time one dude was saying, समय सबको चुपचाप बूढ़ा बना देता है, चुपचाप, पता भी नहीं चलता है किसी को कब बूढ़े हो गए. One day we realize, अरे बाल सफेद हो गए. So therefore, this Chandaveg came along with his Gandharva soldiers and he attacked the city of Puranjana. That means when the time attacks this body, so he's attacked by the Gandharvas and the female Gandharvi companions. There were 360 Gandharvas and 360 companions. They started plundering the city of Puranjana, which was meant for sense gratification. So this is very, very important. So this represents the days and the nights. So day and nights, they take away the life of living entity. Ayur harti vai pumsam udyanastan chayannasav tastyarte yashanauni ta uttama shloka vartaya. A materialist, his life decreases with every rising and setting of the sun. But a devotee, he does not die. He comes one day close to eternal life. So therefore, this Chandaveg, he started plundering the city. And when they attacked the city, the 5-hooded serpent, the serpent which came with Puranjani, started protecting this city. So this Prana Vayu becomes very alert. Prana Vayu protects the living entity for his whole life. But after 50 years, Prana Vayu starts becoming little weak. So therefore, this snake fought alone. It is said he fought alone with 720 soldiers, 360 Gandharvas, 360 Gandharvis. He was fighting. And then the white pair and the black pair. White pair means the waxing phase of the moon, and the black pair means the waning phase of the moon. So therefore, the life air starts becoming weak after 50 years are gone. Prabhupada writes, even up to 52 or 53 years, the life air is strong. People are strong. But after that, one starts becoming weak. So now when Puranjan, he saw that the serpent is becoming weak, then he became anxious. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, when people they realize that end is coming, death is coming, they become really anxious. Then that time they start thinking of self-realization. That is not the actual time to think about this. As it is said, if when the house is on fire, you cannot start digging a well. So therefore people think, अरे बुढ़ापे में हम लोग ये सब कर लेंगे. No, that is not a right proposition. You know. So therefore this Puranjana, he started becoming anxious. So because this Puranjana, he fearlessly engaged in all this sensual indulgence, now he's becoming very, very fearful. So now another story, Narad Muni starts, and he tells about the entrance of old age. So the old age is called Kal Kanya, I'll take just 5 minutes to complete this chapter. So this Kal Kanya, she enters. Kal Kanya is the daughter of Chandaved, Kal, old age, is a daughter of time factor. So Kal Kanya, she is searching for a husband. And she's searching for the husband in all the 3 worlds, but nobody is ready to accept her because nobody likes to become old. So who will accept the Kal Kanya? So she says, one time, one king Puru pleased me. He accepted me. So there is a story which comes in the 9th canto about Yayati Maharaj. Yayati was cursed by his father-in-law Shukracharya to become old. So that's why she's saying, Narad Muni is saying, actually, she was pleased by one king Puru. And then Narad Muni said, actually, she met me once. Narad Muni is saying, she met me once. I was coming from Brahma Loka, she met me. And she, knowing that I was a brahmachari, she became lusty and she proposed to me that please accept her. So Prabhupada writes that Narad Muni was a Naishtika brahmachari. He had no interest in all this sex life. But those who are too much attracted to sexual affairs, they become victims of old age very soon. And their life becomes shortened. And then when Narad Muni, he refused, Narad Muni says that when I refused, she became very angry and she cursed me. She cursed me that I will not be able to stay at one place for a long time. So, Chakravarti Thakur writes that this is a benediction. This is a benediction in disguise. Because Narad Muni, he could not stay at one place, so he kept on traveling all over the world doing preaching. So then this Kal Kanya, she became very disappointed by me, Narad Muni is saying. But I advised her that you go to this personality called Bhay, Yavaneshwara. Yavaneshwar means king of the Yavanas. And you choose that personality as your husband. So Prabhupada writes an interesting thing here. Prabhupada says, in one stroke, Narad Muni gave shelter to Kalakanya and counter-attacked the ordinary karmis. So he says that if one accepts the instructions of Narad Muni, the fear of death will be removed by the mercy of the Vaishnavas. So then this Kalakanya, she approaches this Bhaya, Yavaneshwar, and says that I desire you, you are the best of all the Yavanas, and you are Yavana Rishabha. I accept you as my desired husband. For I know that no one is baffled if he makes friends with you. So this Bhaya represents the fear and Mrityu. So Prabhupada writes that one should not mistakenly think that these words refer to certain classes of men. Yavaneshwara, she is approaching a Yavana. Not me, Yavana. I am not a Yavana. He says that whoever does not follow the Vedic scriptures, he is a Yavana. And then he says that apparently, somebody may think, "Arey, ye to non-devotee ko, she went to all this malecha, but I am a devotee." So therefore, a devotee is not affected by this old age. Although he becomes old, but he's not subject to the symptoms of that defeat, that is fear. Devotee is not fearful of death. For a devotee, death means union with Krishna. For a non-devotee, he is very much uncertain where he will go. People who are not devotees of the Lord, when they face death, they have three types of pain. First is sorrow of the past. Oh, my house, my family, my children, my body, it will be all gone. Fear, sorrow. Pain in the present situation. Oh, I'll be suffering. I'm suffering so much because of all the diseased condition. And then fear of the future. Arre kya hoga? Kahan jaunga main? Where I'll go, nobody knows. But a devotee, he transcends all these things. He is not sorrowful of the past because he knows whatever I'm doing is for Krishna. Krishna is the owner. He takes care of everything. He'll take care of my wife, children, family, property. Everything will be taken care. Devotee is not painful, pained. He's not suffering. Miseries will come. Pain will be there, but he transcends that pain. And he's not fearful of the future also. He knows where he's going. He knows I'm going to Krishna. So therefore, she says that, please accept me. There are two types of people who are ignorant. One is that person who does not give charity. That person is ignorant. Secondly, one who does not accept the charity. So therefore, please, I have come to surrender to you. You please accept this charity. Show compassion to me. Please be merciful to me. Accept me. She says it is the gentleman's duty to be compassionate. So then, hearing all this bhaya, fear personified, he says that he starts speaking to Kalkanya as he was smiling. He says that people generally don't welcome you because who wants to welcome old age? But after much consideration, I have decided to find a husband for you. You are actually inauspicious. Nobody wants to accept you, but I will make a best use of bad bargain. How I'll make use of best use of bad bargain? Because of this old age, people become fearful and at least they will get a chance to turn to Krishna. That's what Prabhupada writes. And people, when they become old, they start thinking of Krishna. That's why, in old age, everybody becomes spiritually oriented. And then he says that this world is a product of the fruitive activities. Therefore, you may attack the people who are karmis, and my soldiers will help you. Who are the soldiers of this bhaya? This adhibhautika, adhidaivika, and adhyatmika klesh. And therefore he says that, here is my brother Prajwara. Prajwara means the Vishnu Jwara, fever which comes. He says, you become my sister and I shall employ both of you as well as my dangerous soldiers to act in a very, very imperceptible way. Prabhupada writes, Kalkanya was sent by Narad Muni to Yavanraj so that she becomes wife of Yavanraj. But this Yavanraj, as per his nature, he accepted this Kalkanya as wife and sister both. So therefore, those who do not have any religious principles, they act in both ways. They even have affairs with their sister. So that is what is described by Narad Muni. And here the story, this chapter ends about this attack of Chandaveg and in the city of Puranjan. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. So there are a few questions. King was following Vedas and doing fruitive activities. So was he not getting purified with time? Yes, but that is a very long process, This process of dharma, artha, kama and moksha, that is a very long process. And only when a saintly person intervenes, that's why, Narad Muni chastised Vyasdev. We discussed in the beginning of the first canto. Jugupsitam dharma kritenu shashata subhavaraktasya mahan vyatikrama. People are already engaged in sense gratification, and you have given them a bona fide way of sense gratification. So this is jugupsitam. This is all abominable. So this dharma, artha, kama by nature is very, very entangling. This is called pravritti marga. Pravritti marg means you engage in sense gratification, then after engaging in sense gratification for a long time, one becomes averse to it. But that is a very long process. So that's why, Narad Muni has to intervene. And actually, this Prachina Barhi, he was engaging in karma kandi activities. We had discussed in Bhagavad Gita, this karma kand is a very lower level in the yoga ladder. Then after karma kand, one rises to sakam karma yoga, then nishkam karma yoga, and then further stages come. So therefore, this is a long process. But only by mercy of the devotees of the Lord, one can transcend these things and immediately come to the process of devotional service. Okay. Puranjan wives represent dharmic. Yes, this dharmic intelligence and material intelligence is the same. So basically, dharma is not transcendental. Dharma is material. This varnashram system is a material system. There is nothing transcendental in that. But the purpose of this varnashram is Vishnu Aradhyate. By maintaining our material duties in a proper way, we can start serving Krishna. But if somebody is not worshipping Krishna, then this varnashram system is useless. And that's why, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was talking to Ramanand Rai, and he said, please tell me the essence of all the scriptures. So Ramanand Rai quoted this verse, Vishnu Varnashrama Acharvata Purushena Parapuman Vishnu Aradhyate Pantha Na Anyat Tattosha Karanam. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Eho Bahya. This is external. Aage kaho aar, speak more. So this is how we have to understand this dharmic intelligence. It is still material intelligence, because the goal of this intelligence is to enjoy. Dharma is for artha. Artha is for kama. And then ultimately moksha. Then spiritual intelligence comes. So that is how dharma is. Dharmic means material intelligence. Once the jiva understands the importance of Krishna consciousness, why does he come back to the material enjoyment? Although he understands the consequences of sense gratification. That's the reason. Because the reason is because a living entity is not convinced. He still has hope. The desires for sense gratification is so very strong and powerful that even after understanding theoretically that sense gratification will lead to misery, but still the conditionings are so very strong and powerful that janiya shunya vish khaini. That is what is happening. Jaan booj ke hum log paap karte hain. That's the question Arjuna asked Krishna. That athakena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha anichan api varshneya balad iva. इच्छा न होते हुए भी बलपूर्वक क्यों एक जीव पाप में लगता है. So Krishna says काम esha krodesh. Till the time this enjoying propensity is there, till that time we will not be able to resist the temptations completely. At present we understand all this in a theoretical way, but theory does not help us because we are not applying this in our life. It will become realization only by service. Artha bhavam vinischitya pratitasyapi natmanah yachapi yushmat charana sevayaham paranude. As Vidura is telling to Maitreya, whatever knowledge you have given me, it will become realization by service. Yushmat charana seva, by serving the devotees of the Lord. This knowledge which we are hearing will become realization, and then we will develop the higher taste. Param drishtva nivartate. So that is the process. That is a slow process of Krishna consciousness. Slowly one becomes purified. Till that time it is a constant struggle. Kab tak karna hai? Prak sharir vimokshanat shaknoti hai vayashodum prak sharir vimokshanat kama krodhod bhavam vegam sayukta sasukhinara. Till the last breath of our life we have to struggle. As His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was speaking in one class, that at the time of death, in one ear Krishna will say, come back, come back. Other ear Maya will say, stay here, it is not so bad, I will give you everything. So this struggle will go till the last breath of our life. So that's how we have to be prepared to struggle till the last breath. Okay, so we'll stop here. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.